Hello and welcome to another episode of Speak Out India with me, Gauri Dwivedi. Now, a day after we spoke about the Aadhaar challenge, where it did raise several concerns and many believed it was a wake-up call, even as the jury is still out on whether or not Aadhaar is hackable. A day after addressing those concerns, we come today with yet another story about how your data, the privacy, the data that is private, our personal data, that we do not want to be out in the public domain may just be completely hacked. This time around, with me today is Jatin Madhra, who is an app technology expert. Also joining me on the show is Ashok Kappor, who is a National Secretary of Consumer Rights Organization. And we will get Karnika Seth, who is a cyber law expert. The first question I want to ask you, Jatin, is that when you have these softwares like Samba TV, which is there in the US, it has about 13.5 million subscribers right now. They have been speaking, and they have now a tie-up with about a dozen odd TVs and a dozen odd companies. So when it is so prolific, when the software is so prolific in nature, what is it that consumers can really do?
So the point is that the software is in the TV, you know, so whatever they are watching and whatever they are looking up to on the TV, it's anytime the company which is behind it is getting access to all of their data, and then they are just filtering it out and processing it out and selling it to the companies. What can be done is like once you open this TV box and you install the television, they always say that you have a choice to either disable or enable.
But they don't tell us what is it that happens when you enable it. All it says is that you will get
a better viewing experience,
or they will just tell you, we will give you offers that are customized for you. But how is that happening? Why is it happening? And where does it go from here? All those are grey areas that the consumer doesn't know.
Of course. So what happens is, let's say, I'll try to explain you that let's say if you are watching any of a particular serial or TV series on internet or on your TV, they track that what you are watching, at what time you have started, what is your television ID, what is your subscriber ID, and for how much time that pixels which were on this television series, for how much time they were on your TV. From that point of time, they are, creating the whole data set and just using that the way they want to.
I want to bring in Karnika Seth. Karnika, you're a cyber law expert. Yeah. We've been talking for the last 2 days about the kind of data privacy laws that exist in India, about the time it's required for us to be looking at a complete overhaul of these regulations. But when you talk about an issue like this, smart TV, where every pixel of content that is consumed through smart TV, someone may be trying to analyze your consumption pattern against your wishes, against your consent, clear consent, which is that, do you think there is a complete grayness as far as law is concerned? Yes, for cable companies there are stricter guidelines. For telecom companies, there are clearer guidelines. For over-the-top companies, content companies, OTT companies, there is a clear guideline. But when it comes to areas like a smart TV and a software embedded in that, is that a completely grey area?
Well, certainly a cause of great concern at this point. It's quite shocking to know that some softwares like these are also being embedded. Earlier we were talking about phones from China or otherwise having some software in it which would snoop or check into the details of people and invade their privacy. And now television. Now it's a completely sphere which is internet enabled.
But what should the law be now?
When it is smart enabled, when it is smart TV, it is internet enabled. So you're even being able to access internet content like YouTube or anything else on the online. And if it has embedded softwares in it which are snooping into your privacy, is completely evaded. And this is completely against the law. We have a fundamental law in India, which is the right to privacy. It's now a fundamental right. We all know that.
Yes.
And the draft bill, if you just look at the draft bill, this is something like stealing away, hacking somebody's personal sensitive information. Because not only are you trying to profile their, and through behavioral advertising, you're advertising it also, you're collecting information which is unauthorized and it is of sensitive nature. It could be what programs they are watching, and there would be any kind of programs.
No, so what I want to know is that you are saying this is completely illegal, even if the company says that we ask for a consent,
No.
which is enabled or disabled,
No,
though
let
they
me
don't
explain.
give any information.
Let me explain. When there is a fine print, very minute print, and you're saying that you're taking away information for better consumer experience, for example. Now that's not enough. To take consent today, you need to have an explicit consent, and for that you have to give the purpose, what exactly you're collecting the information for. If it's in ambiguous terms and something illegal is made out of it, certainly that activity cannot be justified under the garb of, giving some fine print, but that's not enough. So that's how even the bill now specifies that if you're taking away sensitive information of people, for example, a person might be watching some political group's program or having some religious faith or, anything to do with his adult life.
Right.
I mean, that's something which is completely private. You cannot expose your own personal views on those issues are sensitive.
Absolutely. Ashok Kappor, you want to come in on this, that it's time for the law to be more robust, and more importantly, is it time for civil society to just now, instead of playing catch up, try and ensure that they are on the same page as far as the technology revolution is concerned? Look at it, Samba TV is in partnership with 12 companies around the world. In US alone, 13.5 million smart TVs viewers whose data may be snooped with or without their consent explicitly.
I would first like to congratulate you having brought up this debate on, because in this country actually the data has always got related to what is the Facebook data, telecom data, but nobody actually has spoken and pointed the finger at the broadcasting data. This is one aspect which has been there for a very, very long time, and we used to have an organization called TAM at one time, which used to actually provide this data to advertising companies. Today in India, when we talk about our own safety definitions of what data is being utilized, and it has gone across almost 183 million homes now in this country, the data collected by the BARC, which is actually an organization which is put together by the advertisers and the broadcasters, is basically collecting the data on a daily basis from every stream of broadcasting going across. And now, on top of it, today we have a development which is happening in the state of Andhra Pradesh, which is under the Andhra Pradesh State Parliament, which is actually taking the IPTV into every single home in the state. So the data collection definition of how it is going to be monitored, on what equipment it is being monitored, how is the safety of a particular consumer who actually is just watching TV and enjoying what is coming, is going to be utilized as a big, big question mark. Forget what the world is doing. At least Samba TV is asking you yes or no on it. Over here, we don't even know where my data is going.
There is another point to this. There is another point. Now, the IT Act currently, as it stands today, if you're stealing away somebody's data like this, it is unauthorized and it is intrusion. It is an access which is completely unauthorized, and if you're stealing away data, that is something, especially on an interactive TV, like a smart TV, it will fall within the ambit of IT Act, because not only the electronic devices like, which have internet on it are generally covered by that act, but also any communication devices. So if you're interacting, you have to see whether this is actually communication, and if it's an interactive TV, it could be so.
Jatin, do you think the fears of snooping are real and very, very serious?
Of course, because they have the access to all of the data which is there and what you are watching, and either what you shop or what you want to do next. Everything is there. These platforms like Facebook, Google, Twitter, and now the TVs as well. They're consuming everything. Apart from that, whatever you use, if you use Hotstar, let's say, if you use Netflix, they know what is your taste, what kind of movies you like, what kind of music you want to hear, if you are using Spotify or maybe Wink in India. So they're consuming all of the data, and at the end of the day,
it actually amounts to having a CCTV surveillance within your own
home
without having any consent on it.
I want to ask you, Ashok Kappor, that why is it that people or companies are getting away with this? Because now, as more and more smart TVs come in India, as more and more smart devices invade our lives, our privacy is being completely invaded. Why is it that this is still going on?
To be very frank with you, anything which actually starts off and becomes a point of discussion, today it is a point of discussion. And people are understanding actually what is going to happen with data. I mean, we had an experience of what Mr. R.S. Sharma did on his Aadhaar, giving his Aadhaar data away, and people are evaluating was it a breach or not a breach. So likewise, I don't think India realizes, and we of all realize, that to what extent the data can be manipulated and used. And I think as we learn, we all are going to get educated in how we are going to safeguard our data so that it doesn't get manipulated for us itself by the end of the day. There are serious concerns, very serious concerns.
Very serious concerns. Karnika, I want to ask you that how old is our IT Act? Look at it, you know, it's been amended 10 years back. And in 10 years, it's like a lifetime as far as technology is concerned.
Absolutely.
So much of technological evolution has happened.
Correct.
I think our law talks about the PC age. And what we are talking about is a smart TV age.
Absolutely.
Look at the gap in what the policy envisages and what the reality is. How far away are the two from each other?
We really need immediate amendments under the IT Act. I have said on time and again on a number of these shows, because your show is like talking about smart TV today.
Yes.
And we've had a number of issues from bitcoins to, you know, any kind of keyloggers being installed, or, you know, there would be issues relating to child protection and several of them. And every day the technology changes and the pace at which the crime is increasing on internet is tenfold. Absolutely. So considering that, our IT Act is really archaic. And I think we really need, it's imperative, it's need of the hour that we immediately move in for the lacunas which have to be
What
plugged
according
in.
to you are the first set of amendments that the Act, the law needs right away?
Well, I think first set of amendments, you know, in the 2008 legislation, we were like the amendments, we were talking about the term wireless, which was not even there in, you know, in the definition of computer network at that point of time. They used hardwires, and, you know, at that point of time, Wi-Fi was new.
Yes.
And now the smart TV and the smart,
You're talking about devices being connected via Wi-Fi.
artificial intelligence, profiling techniques, the behavioral advertising, all these are redundant. They're not there at all specified under the IT Act. And these are the problems which are really playing havoc with society today. And it's really needed that we address each of these problems. None of these have been discussed there, apart from a few provisions on child protection, like, you know, ban against child pornography. There is really nothing else. But thankfully we have POXO Act, so it balances out.
Okay.
But when you talk about the cyberspace as a domain, we have ransomware attacks today, nowhere discussed, right? So we have bitcoins, then we have problems like sexting, which are all new terminologies, not only phishing.
Okay, so law needs to be completely revamped.
A lot of things have
to be more robust.
looked at.
Ashok Kappor, you had a point to make.
Yes, I would like to take your attention actually to the lot of equipment that is coming into India. One of the things India has always been very sound about, and they have made points at various places, is about the technology which is being used. And if you have technology which doesn't have any background to where it is coming from, this means that whatever data it is collecting, you don't even know where it is going. So for any of the set-top boxes, the equipment that are being used at the spot, the TV is one aspect, but the deliverables which are happening over technology need to be also authenticated and audited. And I think it is very important. We have organizations in this country like BASIL, which actually audits all the broadcasters and the equipment. And I think it becomes very, very important today that whatever is getting implemented also is under a check, because that is how data is going to be leaked. If you don't have IMI numbers on the box, you don't know where the manufacturer is from. Who is the middleware guy?
All right.
Yeah. Even the fact that the regulation to regulate the e-commerce, today there was a reports on the news, the new bill which is being launched. So these are some new areas which are now being taken care of, but then still there is lots to be done.
Jatin, I want to ask you one question, which is that while we talk about the fact how law is completely in dire need of a revamp, I want to ask you, from, when such software are embedded in a smart TV, for instance, where does the law really come in on that? That, because companies say that they have entered into a direct engagement and a partnership with the TV manufacturer. They themselves are, the app companies say that they themselves are not using this information. They are only passing it on to third party, whether it is advertisers or other such companies with whom they've had tie-ups, and all of that is legal. They say that they are in the domain of absolute legit business. and they cannot be held accountable for what we are saying is clear invasion of privacy.
Okay, so as we all have to understand this thing first, that advertising is the world's biggest market, you know, and there are always new ways which they are finding out. There are people and companies who are finding out new ways to reach the direct client and the consumer. And in this format, which is the digital format, what is done is that they can directly, you know, do the analysis, and analytics can be put up on each and every client. So when it comes to the Samba TV thing, you know, Samba TV is actually doing not one thing, and they are just installing and embedding the system or the software onto a smart TV which is built by Sony or maybe Toshiba, and they have a direct contact, and you know, collaboratively Toshiba and Samba TV, because Samba TV is accessing the whole data and Toshiba is giving it a platform to access that data. They collaboratively selling that 13.5 million users data to the advertisers, and that's what is happening.
Yeah. So we
no,
need,
but you know, are they doing it legally or not? Because they are saying that they are completely on the side of the law.
Of course, they would be doing it legally.
Completely on the side of the law.
Of course, they would be doing it legally. Let's say if you search anything on Google, and the next day you are able to see the advertisement related to it. So this comes under a law because they are doing a direct targeting to you. But using that things to, you know, manipulate your thoughts and manipulating your decisions on any other issues rather than your choices.
Okay, no, I differ on this point, that the collection of the material, the data, has to be legally authorized. If that is not authorized, and what do you mean by authorization? The authorization has to be in a very clear terms that we are taking away this data of yours and it will be used for this purpose. If it is ambiguous to the extent that it is misleading the consumer, it amounts to an invasion of privacy.
All right, I want to ask Ashok Kappor one question.
It's one more thing I would like to say. It's the Internet of Things age. Right. You know, so when we are
it's an IoT age. Yes, absolutely.
This is what needs to be
Ashok
looked
Kappor,
at.
I have a question, which is that in the US as well, where we all concede that the law is far more robust, where the technological evolution has also been, you know, much faster, much ahead of us. The adaptation of technology has been far ahead of us. Even there, you have two senators which are now questioning this entire business practice. They are saying that it's time to have a complete detailed look as to how this model works, because they feel that yes, at some level this is invasion of privacy. This is exactly what snooping is all about. So if in the West, if in the US, lawmakers are waking up to it, why is it that lawmakers here are not waking up to this extent of pervasive snooping?
But that's where the voice of the people and the voice of the media needs to get out. Today, the information which is being collected, at least in the US, if I may say, they at least ask you, are you on with it or not? Do you want to do it or not? Over here, the information is being collected and utilized, I don't know how. So who is going to make that soundly application happen? And I think it's the responsibility of the government, which actually needs to take care of the consumer by the end of it. So we are looking at the government to actually provide that guideline, to be in that step forward. And I think issues like what have come up in the focus lately with regards to the Aadhaar numbers or the Facebook data are the ones which are going to drive all of us towards taking these actions which need to be taken now, because we are in the building up of the data. The data burst in US has already happened, and how it is getting manipulated is a learning package for us.
All right.
And if we are not smart enough, we don't do it, we're going to lose out, also get manipulated.
All right.
See, the phone tapping has a law. You have law for interception on the internet. Then why not TV? This has to be also regulated.
And you know, I want to take this forward, but I want to quickly tell our viewers the numbers, which is of course flashing on our screens, 4369581, and you can also of course tweet on this issue. We'll try and take some of those tweets at the end of the show. The question that we are asking is, it has been on my mind for some time when I saw that report came out, which is that, is your smart TV really spying on you, and how pervasive is that spying? And more importantly, we as the citizen of this country who have a fundamental right to privacy, why are we not standing up against it, and why are we not getting a legal recourse against it? That's the question that we all need to be asking. You know, it's very interesting, Karnika, why we've been talking about how right to privacy is now a fundamental right. Aadhaar judgment, many believe, will be relooked in the backdrop of that historic judgment. And here we are talking about one of the most pervasive ways of snooping. And the fact is, when you talk about smart devices, when you talk about devices being linked on Wi-Fi, it doesn't just stop at the TV. There are now reports suggesting it can be your vacuum cleaner. Yes. It can be, you know, any device that is connected. So just look at the extent to which your personal data stands totally compromised.
I think it's a day and the age where we need a convergence law. It's no more the age only to say OTT, or it is you know, limited to a particular communication device. If you are having all sorts of, you know, services through a smartphone. You are using it as a video camera. You're using it as a camera. Maybe even a CCTV, you know, backup is there, and you can actually see what's happening in your office through checking one of the apps. It's everything is on your cell phone, and everything is on interactive mode. So to look at that, if you be futuristic, if you be even, I would say, contemporary need is that we have a convergence law. You agree with that? We cannot exclude any of the mediums today. Right. You want to comment on that, Jatin?
Of course, there has to be laws, and there has to be a particular criteria to use any information which has been provided, or which you are mining it from the users. And apart from the app developers who are working on the applications and the companies who are working, there has to be a proper curriculum which they have to follow, and the laws have to be strict, and if they are not gonna imply the laws in US, it would be very difficult for India to come at that point where the laws work.
Correct. Final question, you wanna take that, Ashok Kappor, that nothing stops some of your other devices who may be connected to be snooping on you, and that of course is a vital piece of information that people are willing to pay thousands and thousands of rupees, crores of rupees for, which you don't even know is out in the market.
I know, one thing which I would like to bring to attention while we are discussing this is, by the end of the day, we all are consumers. We all have to take care of what is actually happening with us, with what we are generating, and I think there's a lot that needs to be covered, because the kind of data that very truly which you stated, and the kind of connectivities that we are doing right now, the kind of equipment that are coming, which is related to house security, office security, and various other aspects. I mean, there is no end to what we are talking about. Very soon electrical vehicles are going to be coming in. There is already a discussion of how the electrical vehicle hacking can be solved. So when you actually are going to be sharing so much of data, there has to be obviously very strict laws, and we are at a good stage in our stage of development to actually bring in that law for application and amendments if we need to go for later on.
Okay, all right.
And I think to consider the bill, the data protection bill, they must take into account these problems, because it's not just the laptop or the tablet.
Do you think the Supreme Court judgment would touch upon it? Because when we are expecting the Supreme Court judgment, we are expecting it to, of course, many believe that the Aadhaar linkage that is happening would stop. It would be restricted to only a few services, unlike close to 100 that it has ended up being.
I think so.
Will that pave the way for your linking of personal information, your free access to personal information, and more importantly, massive penalties?
Yes.
When your
bill
data
already
is compromised.
talks about 15 crores, up to 15 crores of penalty, up to 4% of the world turnover of the company to be, as a compensation. So there have been some deterrent, punishments proposed by the new bill. However, I would say that the broad approach needs to be very, very broad in terms of it's already there. They are trying to cover as much possible, but then these kind of problems which you're pointing out today, and I'm glad that we're on the show discussing this issue, and the NewsX is talking about it.
All right.
This is the need of the hour.
All right. Completely out of time. I want to thank our panel for joining us on what I believe is a very, very serious issue. If one thought that your Aadhaar information is out in the public and your data stands to get compromised, well, what we talked about today is even more significant. You did not know, you may not know that your smart TV, which is linked to your Wi-Fi, linked to some of your other devices electronically, may be snooping on you, and your personal information that you do not want to give is out there in the market, for which billions of dollars may be the kind of price that marketers are willing to pay. It's time for our law to be smarter than the smart devices that are snooping on our personal lives. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Speak Out India.